Imagine this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings. This is your house. But is it your home? Hi, I'm Nelson DeMello, and join me as we try to find our home beyond our borders. I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good take.
You know, people say the Bible is racist. And this is a clear thing. Now, you go to the New Testament, there's, verses, neither Jew nor Gentile, man or woman, only Christ. Verses like that. In the Old Testament, you're like, I don't know. What do we do here? Numbers 12, okay, actually is a very, very powerful chapter that redeems color. It redeems women. That's one thing that I've been trying to do as well. I know that scripture is different. Like when a woman reads the Bible, different things stick out to them in the spirit of grabbing any and everything that I can get, trying to understand. Of course, I'm definitely gonna miss the mark with like women things, but I'm gonna try. So this was for the ladies, not 100%, but let's read Numbers 12, 1 through 2 for now, and then we'll just kind of walk down this chapter. It says, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married. For he had married a Cushite woman. And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us also? And the Lord heard it. Oh boy. So, first things first, if you remember, because I remember, they're referring to Zipporah here. Zipporah. Not Zipporah. That's where I got to go later today. Oh, yes. So, Zipporah. Zipporah was actually from the land of Midian, modern day Iran or Lebanon. Some maps, I don't know why it's a confusing thing. Obviously, I'm not a historian, archaeologist, whatever, so I'm not going to know. But like, how do the pros not know, So they don't know if it's like the coast, the bottom coast of Iran or Lebanon. And then definitely Cush is south of Egypt. Now, you're reading that and you're like, oh, that don't make sense. Like, what does this have to do with racism? Well, I'll tell you. So, because, well, maybe you don't know, but, Iranians, Lebanese, they're not that dark. They're Middle Eastern, yeah, so they're shades of brown, but they're usually in the lighter shades of brown. They're olive skinned, right? People from Sudan, they're dark, and so what do we see here? And so that gives us a clue that Zipporah was probably a dark woman from Midian, and therefore, this is a pejorative word. Like they're not like, oh, I don't know my geology. They're like, oh, this blackie, and sorry if that's like, but that's literally what's going on here. Oh, who's this black woman that is married, like Moses married a black woman, da-da-da. It's like, bro, whoa, right? Like, what are you doing right now? So we see this. We see that they're calling out Moses for marrying a dark-skinned woman, which is weird because then the response has nothing to do with it. How do I say? The verbal response has nothing to do with it. The punishment has everything to do with it. So we'll get there. But before we get there, I got to read one of the funniest verses in the Old Testament, which is verse 3. It says, now the man Moses was very meek, more than all the people who were on the face of the earth. Now, it's not funny until you understand who wrote Numbers. Moses wrote Numbers. So Moses is out here just like, out of nowhere, just like, guys, I am the most humble person on the planet. Just so y'all know. Now, all jokes aside, right? We expect, we think, we not hope, Because I mean, it's like we expect this to be written like by the Spirit, right? So he's not just like bragging here, like the Lord told him, hey, write this down. But that's nonetheless hilarious, you know. If I like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be super. I don't know. It's like you're writing you're writing a story, and well, actually, it's funny. This happens in the book of John, where he's writing about like going to the cave, not the cave, well, the cave, kind of like wherever Jesus, the tomb. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so good at this. The tomb. They were running there, and in the book of John, it says that he got there first. It's like, that's an unnecessary detail, but he just we wanted to let everyone know that he got there before Peter. He ran faster than Peter, and it's just stuff like that. It's like, randomly in the story, if I'm like writing some narrative about my life, and it's like, oh, by the way, 6 foot chiseled abs, it's like, well, that wasn't necessary. Like, what what was that? So that's why it's hilarious to me. It's like, what does that have to do with anything in the story, other than the fact that you just gave yourself the biggest compliment ever? And it's like kind of ironic. Like, on the surface, it's ironic to be like, yeah, I'm the most humble man on the planet. So yeah, there's that. All right, let's back to business. So verse 4, it says, and suddenly the Lord said to Moses and to Aaron and to Miriam, come out, you three, to the tent of meeting. And the three of them came out, and the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud and stood at the entrance of the tent and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forward. He said, hear my words. If there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, make myself known to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak mouth to mouth clearly, and do not in riddles. And he beholds the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. Now, this slightly has something to do with the complaint, right? Like, oh, doesn't, like, why is he the leader? Why, like, he speaks to us too, doesn't he? And so God sets the record straight, right? He's like, no. I speak to Moses face to face. He beholds my form. That's kind of crazy. I think how God treats this situation reminds me of how Jesus treats the man that was brought in, the paraplegic that was brought in through the roof, right? Where Jesus says, hey, your sins are forgiven. And everyone's like, what? Dude, this guy needs to walk. Like, what are you talking about? His sins are forgiven. And then he says, like, is it easier to say that this man's sins are forgiven, or to heal him, but to show that I have the power of God in me, I'm going to heal him. And then he walks up, takes his mat, and goes, right? How I've been taught that scripture is that, like, God, like, we see our needs, right? And like our desires and our wants and our immediate needs. And we're like, oh God, I need miracles for this. Like, God sees the deepest thing that you actually need, right? You're like, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A. And then someone calls you up and is like, hey, have dinner with my family. And you're like, well, free food, whatever. And you go there, and then you have a meal with family, and your soul is filled because maybe you were homesick or something. Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? Like, you're thinking, oh, I'm just hungry. But God sees, oh, no. Like, it's deeper than that. And he takes care of that, right? So, and that's not in that situation. In the Jesus story, we see that the cure for our sin is the deepest need that we need. And it's salvation, right? That's what that is. So here, we see a lot of things. And I'll read more to give that context, to show that a little bit more. But we see that God verbally is responding to that, right? He's like, okay, well, if you think like you can be leader just because you like see visions and see me in dreams, if you think that's why you can be a leader, let me set the record straight and say, no, I talked to Moses face to face, not in riddles, plain as day, and he sees my form. So, whoa, that's one thing. All right, now for the punishment. Verse 10, when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous, like snow. Can you say like snow? Turn to your neighbor. Wait, we're not in church. And Aaron turned towards Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said to Moses, O my Lord, do not punish us, because we have done foolishly and have sinned. Let her not be one as dead, whose flesh is half eaten away when he comes out of his mother's womb. I don't know what that means. And I'll stick to that, because what are you talking about? Coming out the womb, half eaten. That's crazy. But verse 13, and Moses cried to the Lord, "Go, God, please heal her, please." But the Lord said to Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be shamed for 7 days? Let her be shut outside the camp 7 days, and after she may be brought in again. So Miriam was shut outside the camp 7 days, and the people did not set out on the march until Miriam was brought in again. After that, the people set out to Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. Okay, so what do we see here? God, well, one, the irony, right? This is like poetic justice. He's like, oh, you're discriminating towards this woman because she's black. Well, I'm gonna make your skin white as snow, decrepit with leprosy, right? So there's like that poetic justice, that irony there, and I think we put all of this together and we say, and we can see like, yo, God, one, I think, fought for Zipporah, right? Like this is, hey, this is my daughter. Don't, that's not cool. You don't talk about that. You don't discriminate. You don't degrade her. So there's protection there. And then the way his monologue, the way he writes it, like why, to me, what sticks out is the, if her father had but spit in her face. It's like, why are you bringing up dad, shame, right? To me, it's like, hey, Miriam, you're my daughter too, and I expect better from you. And so that reminds me of the verse that says that God disciplines those he loves, right? And so, yeah, you act a fool. You're a child of God. Well, God's going to straighten you out. In the punishment, there is his care and precision towards fixing bad behavior, right? It's the verbal of like, okay, this is what you complained about. I'm going to deal with that. And then I'm going to deal with your heart as well against Zipporah. Why are you, what is this angst that you have towards her? And you just brought it up because you called her a Cushite woman. She's from Midian, like that. What are you doing? And then boom, leprosy, skin white, flaky, dying for a week. And she was cast out, right? So she was just alone for a week in timeout. I don't know if that's that's messed up. So that's kind of what I mean by taking the woman's perspective here, trying to read through this of daughter. Both are daughters, and both are being dignified and refined. I think that's important. Now, there's also one aspect. Why did Aaron not get punished? Because if we read in the beginning, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses. So why didn't Aaron get anything? Now, this, I'm reading into it a little bit, right? And I think low-hanging fruit is, Miriam's mentioned first. So it's like more her idea, right? I think that's low-hanging fruit. I think another thing we can consider is that in verse 11, Aaron is asking for forgiveness, essentially. He's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? And Miriam, there's no sign of repentance or anything from Miriam. So I think it was one of those things where Miriam was still heated about it and was still upset. And like, even hearing God's voice, the discipline, and then the outcome, she's like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe, like, really, like, she's still like heated about it. And so I think that time was necessary, right? And yeah, I mean, I guess if I were to create a narrative, it almost seems like Aaron went along with it because he's like, yeah, you're right, Miriam. And then, it went down. And then he was like, actually, you know what? I'm so sorry. What was I even thinking? Like, I don't even know her. What are you talking about? This ain't my sister. What do you mean? And so, yeah, I think that he was like half in it, kind of. He was like, he like went along with it. He's like, oh, maybe maybe she's got a point. I feel this way, kind of. And then it all went down. He's like, what? No, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm just an idiot. I'm just a simple man from the Levite clan. Like, who am I? All that. And so, yeah, I think maybe there was still bitterness in her heart, and that's why there was a separation there. I think it was more personal to Miriam. And then the second question becomes, okay, we just read in chapter 11, a whole bunch of people died from rebellion. And then these two leaders, right, second to Moses, are rebelling against Moses, and they don't die? What's going on here? Right, and we've established already one thing, which is corporate sin is way deadlier than sin between a single person. Like, I can deal with a single person, right? But when a group of people, a congregation of people are doing something wrong, are rebelling, going against God, then God has to take drastic action, right?
Wait, hold up. If at any point in this you said, dang, I never thought about it like that, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? I'm trying to pay my bills. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right, see you.
Guys, let's get into chapter 13. I think that does it for 12. 13 is a pretty famous one. It's the one where Caleb and Joshua, are one of the spies. They come back. They're the only two in the whole congregation with Moses. That's like, guys, this is the land, right? And everyone else is like, no way, dude. These guys are Nephilim. And so we'll talk about all of that. Okay, so let's start with verse 1 in 2. Because this is super important. The Lord spoke to Moses saying, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the people of Israel. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a chief among them. All right, so here's the context. And we're going to talk about faithlessness again. Here we see, right? Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the people of Israel. This is a promise. This is important because at the end of it, right, by the end of the chapter, you see, oh, we're scared to go. But the Lord promised, right? God who, opened up the Red Sea to let you cross. God who did the 10 plagues. God who has fed you manna, quail. God who has taken care of every single thing, put out any kind of fires, the God that is with you as a cloud and a pillar of fire, that God is telling you that you are going to have this land. So why is there fear? Why is there a rejection? And that's why they've been punished for, like, that generation isn't going to go, is because they've seen so many signs. They ought to trust the Lord. Like, I think this speaks to discernment, spiritual maturity, and like the how the punishment fits the crime. So when you're new to your faith, I think God won't get upset, let's say, at unbelief. It doesn't grieve him. It doesn't, make him mourn, because you don't have that history with God, But when you've had so much history with God, and then you start taking steps back, I think that really does something to God, that really grieves God. And so when you have this kind of experience, when you've had so much that God has done in your life, and then all of a sudden he's giving you a command for you to have faith, and then you take a step back and you're like, actually, I don't know, God, I don't know. Like that sucks, man, I mean, yeah, I think in this sense, you can anthropomorphize God as a person. And like, I don't know, your husband, your wife, your best friend, it's like, bro, you know me. Like, why don't you trust me? Like, I go through with it, like I can do it, that whatever. Like, after all this time, why don't you trust me? Like it doesn't affect the person's like self-esteem kind of deal, because like the guy knows who he is, like the person that you don't trust, he knows who he is, he knows he can do it. But it's like, but you see it, but you just you don't want to be vulnerable, you don't want to not be in control, you don't, I don't know, right? You don't want to receive that. You don't want to put yourself in a position to trust. That sucks, man. And so like it's hurtful in that sense. Now I'm sorry, like I'm trying to think about how that is hurtful. Like what? I mean, yeah, maybe it is just that sense of like, man, you must not know me. Like I thought you knew me better. Like it's the opposite of letting someone down, right? Like, oh, dude, I trusted you and you let me down. It's the opposite of like, bro, I'm not going to let you down and you won't trust me. Like, what's up with that, And so that's basically what's going on in chapter 13, right? Let me look at my note. Oh my God. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, it's some fun things, right? Verse 23, it says a cluster of grapes, they carried it on a pole between two of them. So can you just imagine like a 8-foot pole with these giant grapes that they're carrying, right? Like the vine is wrapped around this 8-foot pole. Two guys are carrying it like this, like over their back, and they're just carrying these enormous grapes. So like that's the kind of fruit that land had. Maybe hyperbole, right? Maybe an exaggeration. And yeah, maybe the grapes weren't huge. It was just the like the bounty, it was bountiful, right? So you had a huge vine of grapes that were just like completely, like just filled with grapes. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, man. And those are like, that's what it looks like to have theological differences, right? Like we have different ideas of what like a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two of them. So we don't know if the cluster is just a really long cluster or it's just a really big cluster. And people go in different directions with that. That's totally fine. Some might go more the creative way. So like, I'm just imagining the narrative and da. Some people are going to be like, well, technically, it's not possible to have these grapes, without GMOs and da. And, and that's just what it is. And we can disagree on that, because that's like not even tertiary, bro. That's like fourth. Like it doesn't change anything except for the narrative, right? But we know, hey, there was a lot. Something was a lot. It was either a lot of size or a lot of numbers, whatever. And then, right, yeah. And so what happens in verse 25 through 33, I got the dots and all that. Let me just read it. So 25 through 33. It says, at the end of 40 days, they returned from spying the land, and they came to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation of the people of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. They brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him, we came to the land to which you sent us. It flows with milk and honey, and this is its fruits. However, the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. And besides, we saw the descendants of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of Negeb. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the hill country, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea along the Jordan. But Caleb quieted the people before Moses and says, let us go up at once and occupy it, for we are well able to overcome it. And then the men who had gone up and said, we are not able to go against these people, for they are stronger than we are. And so they brought the people of Israel a bad report of the land, and they had spied it out, and the land through which we have gone to spy it out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and all the people nope, sorry, I did a double page turn. We saw it are in great height, and there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come from the Nephilim, and we seem to ourselves as grasshoppers, and we seem to them. So, yeah, I guess, just outside of this, the narrative that we're building with numbers, talking about the Nephilim once again, this is 100%. The most likely interpretation of this is that they're exaggerating, right? They know of the stories of Noah. They understand that there were these giants that walk among the earth. If you understand that, like, we have grown as like humans have grown over the span of like all of our civilization, right? So people in this age were like on average 5'2", like that was the average. I think in America, the average is 6 feet. That's insane. So think about that. 10 inches of difference, right? So you have a people that's like 5'2", and then maybe you have 5'8", 5'9" people, maybe 6 feet people, and you're just like staring up and you're like, oh my God, these guys are Nephilim. Now, technically, Nephilim were probably around 10 feet. I mean, we have, what do you call it? People with gigantism. We've seen, there's recorded people that are like 9'8" and stuff like that. And so that's again, all in the realm of possibility. Now, yeah, I think here they're just saying, man, these guys are like a foot taller than us. These guys must be giants, and I say that because there is no tie to the people of Anak to the Nephilim. That there's, like, biblically speaking, I think geologically speaking, archaeologically speaking, like, doing research or whatever, like there's just no ties there. And so for them to say that, we have to accept and understand that either it was an exaggeration, like, they were being hyperbolic, or because they don't have the information that we have in terms of like study and resources and all this stuff. They're, just misinformed. So yeah, that's one aspect to that. Let me see if so I think that's pretty much wraps up chapter 13 as well. I mean, I know we didn't like read through it and analyze, but essentially, I mean, that's what happens, right? That those were the highlights. You have God promising that they'll get them into the promised land and take care of all the inhabitants. And then they were faithless and they turned back, right? And we see like they chickened out. They saw the bounty. I don't think I'm using that word right. They saw just how like I guess prosperous the land is. They saw how fruitful the land is, how good the land is with the grapes. But then they're scared of, the people. So there's so yeah, I mean that's what ends up happening, and then we know that then God, well, I guess that's chapter 14, right? But I will say this. I just want to parallel this to Luke 8:22, right? This is a story where Jesus then they go through the same thing. So let's read that. So Luke 8:22, it says, one day he got into a boat with his disciples and he said to them, let us go across to the other side of the lake. Okay. So they set out, and as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down to the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, Master, Master, we are perishing. And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and they were calm. And he said to them, where is your faith? And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, who then is this that he commands even winds and waters, and they obey him? So we see, right, that Jesus here, and this is kind of like, to me, this is like what brings life to Numbers for me, is being able to make these parallels, but also see how aligned God the Father and Jesus are, even emotionally, and like what excites them, what disappoints them. Like, you can't pretend that. You know what I mean? You can't I don't know, you can't act that. You can't, like, because you are who you are, you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like. Things excite you, things don't excite you. Like, you're attracted to things, you're not attracted to things. And just for even that to be aligned, like one to one, you're like, dude, this is the incarnation of God. This is insane. And so we're reading this, maybe you didn't catch it. I try to emphasize it. But Jesus said, let us cross to the other side, meaning we are going to get to the other side. We are going to get to the other side, okay? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And the storms and da-da-da-da. And they're like, hey, we're going to die in the middle of the journey. And then God rebukes and he says, where's your faith? And they're like, whoa, he just, like, the storm, wow. They missed the point, right? Jesus said, we're going to the other side. God said in Numbers, I'm going to give you this land. And they're like, we can't do it. What? I didn't say you're going to get this land. I said, I'm going to give you this land. I'm doing the work and you don't trust me, right? So this is at the heart of sin. It's the lack of trust. It's the doubting. And not like, I doubt that this scripture means what it means, or I don't know what to do with this scripture, or like, is God really there? It's not that kind of doubt. It's doubting his character, doubting who he is. And okay, maybe even that you can doubt. Like, you can have doubt in, like, that's a possibility. And God will work that in you if you're open to it. But actually, that's actually really funny. I think it'll be fantastic to go through 14, because 14, they try to take the land and they don't have God's permission anymore and they get their butts whooped. So, I mean, we'll see that. But yeah, I mean, I want, like, I don't want people to be like, I can't doubt God and I have to, be on my P's and Q's with God. That's not what I want. Because that's not our journey. It's going to be a lot of, God, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? And he does something and we're like, oh my goodness, you did it again. That's the life of a Christian. It's saying that, oh my God, you did it again. That's the life of a Christian. But But that is our sin. That is the core of sin, right? Like we date around, we go too far with women and men, and whatever gender is listening to this, and we go too far because at the heart of it, at the deepest part of us, we don't trust that God is preparing that woman or man for us. We don't trust that God can fill our needs, that God is caring for our needs, right? And so we take matters into our own hands and we try to do things our way, and that's always going to backfire. And so people, talk about morality and behavior and da-da-da. And in that, can you pick that up? That it's just the surface. You sleeping around is a symptom of something way deeper inside of you. The root cause is our faithlessness. It's that we don't trust God, that he's good, that he loves us, that he's there for us, that, that's the root cause of our sin, or of our heart. Like, that's the root cause of our disease, and the symptom, just a branch of that, is acting out, but it goes way deeper. And I think that's what we need to understand. And that's what God is treating in us. That's what God is treating in the people of Israel here, And so, I think that's all I got for now. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much if you've listened to all of this. And if, in the comments you want to just if you want to comment hey, I need prayer for this and that, let me know. I am absolutely 100% willing to pray for you. So have a good week. See ya.
Hey guys, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, follow, and remember, there is more to life, and that is good news. Thank you guys so much.